Hi, I'm Reggie from Nintendo of America. You'll hear a great conversation about Nintendo, but also no previous conversation has ever matched this one for the breadth and depth of the entertainment that awaits you. So please enjoy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the House of Mario episode 30. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me today are two very special guests, Dylan Blight from the Explosion Network.
Hello.
And Paul James from player2.net.au.
Spot on. I feel like I've had this conversation recently.
How we going, guys?
Not too bad. Keeping busy.
Not too bad. You're keeping busy, that's good.
It feels good to be in the house that Yoshi built.
Yes, he did a fine job with these hay walls. It's very flammable.
Smells great in here. It's beautiful. Love what you've done with the place.
Thank you. Usually when I get guests on, I just sort of try and get the audience to know you by just asking what some of your favourite games are from your childhood and now. Don't have to necessarily be Nintendo, but yeah.
So, I feel like you force people to do Nintendo. Like, just do it. Put the rule on. I'm going to put the rule on myself. Nintendo only.
Put the rule on. It's got to be Nintendo. It has to be.
Do it.
No choice.
Do it, Paul.
No choice.
Do it, Paul.
As in Nintendo published or just on a Nintendo platform?
Here we go.
Just Nintendo platform. That'll be fine.
My favourite... Actually, no, it wouldn't have mattered. My favourite Nintendo game is Ocarina of Time. I don't think you can go wrong with that one. I think there's just a small group of people that might agree with me on that one. But... whatever. Beyond that, Chrono Trigger is the definitive non-Nintendo developed game. I cannot get enough of that game, and I'm looking for any opportunity to get back to the franchise. So Square Enix, if you want to do something about that, please, I've got ideas. You can hit me up on my email or Twitter. But you probably won't.
Did you play the version on the DS when they ported that?
With the additional missions or kind of region there to visit? Yeah, I dabbled with it a little bit, just to kind of see what that content was, but didn't dive too much deeper into it than that.
Yeah, because that's the one I tried, and I think it was a certain part where it just froze and wouldn't continue. So
oh, really?
That's as far as I got. Yeah. I think that was more due to the fact the way I was playing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a legit copy.
Oh, yeah, that could have something to do with it.
It might.
How did you have illegal copies of... I've never heard of this. Like, how's that work?
Well, it's just like a little R4 card, and it's got a SD card in it, and you can upload games to it and play it on your DS.
I never saw this or even heard of this in my life. I lived a sheltered childhood or something. I don't know.
You must have. I never, just downloaded games and never bought them. I still bought all my games. Just, it was nice to have, try some games before you buy them and stuff like that. Before you had demos
and also the benefit of having all there on the same cartridge. Well, not necessarily all of them, but certainly a portion on the same cartridge. You didn't have to pop things out and go find the case and, those oversized cases that for a tiny little SD card size thing. Well done, Nintendo.
I think for the most part, where it just... some games didn't save properly and some wouldn't go past certain points. It wasn't worth it, obviously. Like in Chrono Trigger, I could have been 20 hours in and it could have done the same thing. So, not really recommended. Go and get some legit copies. What about yourself, Dylan?
Pokemon Yellow or Mario Galaxy?
Oh, very good choices. Especially, I love Pokemon, but the two Mario Galaxy games, absolutely love those games.
They're the best Mario games.
Yeah. Which one's your favourite out of Mario Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2?
1. Just because it was, at the time, more exciting and crazy and different and stuff. But then 2 was cool, but it was just more of the same, I guess. It was it's more Galaxy. I'm cool.
I think that's an important lens to look at these things through, because there's a lot of people out there that will say that Mario Galaxy 2 is the better one. And in terms of, what they are, they might be right. But... the content of Galaxy 2 wouldn't really exist with the foundation that is Galaxy 1. You almost... it's hard to do it because they are separate products, but you almost need to look at them as two parts of a whole, because, there's so much they wouldn't have done in 2 that if if they hadn't done 1 in the first place, but then some elements of 2 that only exist because of the foundation. Like it's a whole thing.
Well, I think they're
Sequels,
both
right?
10s. They're both 10s in their own right, but yeah, it's like Galaxy 2 doesn't have the better level design if it doesn't have the basics that was the foundation that was the level design from the first game. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was
remember,
a thing that people like too.
I remember Mario Galaxy 2 blowing me away more so than Mario Galaxy 1. I think just the observatory, the hub world, it just annoyed me because of how sort of convoluted and it kind of felt a bit soulless to me. Whereas I know the Starship Mario head, even though it was relatively small, I felt like there was a bit more charm.
And there's Yoshi. That's a big factor too.
And Yoshi's awesome as well. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I don't really like convoluted hub worlds, but I suppose maybe at the time I was having too much fun just running around doing, just jumping around the map between levels, yahooing and waving my remote around like a crazy person. Because, of course, I played this within the first couple months of getting my Wii, and I was still kind of enjoying the waggles at the time as well. So I wasn't running around like, I've got to shake the remote to do a spin or whatever the hell you had to do with the thing. I was like, this is fun. Woo, waggle all over the place. This is exciting. It wasn't for a couple months later where I was like, I'm over this and I never want to shake my hand again.
I don't know if you guys have played it since, like you've been over the whole waggle craze, but at the time, the waggling never bothered me. Having to do your spin attack never bothered me. But I don't know if I went back to it now, I'll just be like, please let me press a button.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm at when it comes to that, because like you, it didn't bother me initially, but if I was to go back to it, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Oh well.
It wasn't the worst game for waggles anyway. In the library of Wii games, the little waggle you had to do to make him do what you needed to do in that game, and just pointing on the screen, like you could sit comfortably on your couch, moving the pointer at the screen and waggling it when you needed to, compared to plenty of other Wii games where you needed to basically be in workout clothes.
Did you guys ever get into like the really heavy motion control games, or did you sort of stay away from it?
Red Steel and stuff? Or Real Steel, whatever it was called? No. What was that? The sword
Red
one?
Steel,
yeah, Red Steel. Tried that. That was pretty. And then like No More Heroes, I suppose, maybe?
Heroes was really cool.
There's one particular gesture in that you really enjoyed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had practice at least.
I didn't get into it too much for the most part. I certainly had no problem with Mario Galaxy, because that movement to spin, for example, it was fairly subtle. It was a subtle little gesture done. For some reason, I'm really big into the IP. I got into the Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi games, and there was a lot of gestures in that to like use your Kamehameha wave, your flinging controllers, and it was a whole thing. It was great.
Well, so you're actually doing like spirit bombs and stuff by lifting up your arms?
That I don't recall. But certainly, like, your little Kamehameha waves and those sorts of things, it was flinging controls out, and there was some full-on battles there between me and mates in kind of a, well, you'd call it couch co-op, but it wasn't really on the couch. Like, it was getting fairly aggressive.
Yeah. I can imagine just like breaking the cord from the nunchuck to the Wiimote, just ripping it in half.
Actually, I think the
Goku or someone.
I think the nunchuck was required, and that was your method of kind of conducting the Kamehameha. Your two hands.
Oh boy. Yeah. I when I first got my Wii, I really enjoyed the motion controls, especially when, like, I think a lot of parents had done when they actually saw Wii Sports in motion, and then they're like, "Oh, that looks really cool," and they get into it, and they sort of, it gives them a bit of a glimpse of why you love video games.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the Wii for that. But I think for 3 years it was going really strong. Then it sort of, the content just dried right up, and Nintendo still insisted on the Wii's a thing.
It's the same story for the Wii U. It had a good solid 3 months, and then it fell off a cliff.
I fucking hate the Wii U so much.
Did it have a solid 3 months? That was the problem with the Wii U. It sort of trickled out, then the games really slowly come after that.
The sad thing about that story is that It's got a fantastic suite of games. The Pikmin 3 is something I swear by. 3D World is great fun. Captain Toad, adorable. And a lot of
Yoshi's
fun to
Woolly
play at
World.
the same time. Woolly World was not too bad as well. That was certainly something myself and the wife played in co-op. There was some great, and you got to play remasters of some really high profile classic Zelda games. Like there was some cool things going on, but it was held back by a really poor console.
It was, yeah.
I finished one game on the whole console the entire time I brought it, ever. Even though I played, like, Captain Toad and Yoshi's Woolly World, loved the games, but the idea of playing them, having to play it on that console, turned me off wanting to play the games I was enjoying. And I only managed to force myself through Bayonetta 2 because I was such a fan of the first game. And that basically the reason I got the Wii U was just for Bayonetta 2. So I was like, I have to finish it because I brought this damn console for this game. But other than that, it's the only console I regret buying. It's like,
do you still have it?
No, I got rid of it.
Sold.
I traded in when I got my Switch. I put it towards that. I said, turn this junk into a good Nintendo console.
I remember I had a broken leg and I'm stuck in the chair, couldn't get up. I'm like, I'll play some Black Ops 2, so playing through the campaign of that, and I get up to the dance floor level and there's lights going everywhere. I'm like, this would be really cool. So I go to Miiverse to post a screenshot, and before the update, going to Miiverse could potentially freeze your console. So
okay.
This time it froze.
Well done,
and
Nintendo.
What you've got to do, you've got to unplug it and plug it back in to unfreeze it. Like, none of the buttons or anything works. So I'm sitting in the chair with the broken leg being, well, this is my day now. If I got up and turned on the PS3 or something, I might be still playing a game. But
Oh, dear.
no, but I don't regret buying a Wii U. I was happy enough with Mario Kart 8 and Smash Bros. Alone. They're two of my favourite games, those ones. I think they're the best in their respective series. And having Mario Kart 8 on Switch now, and hopefully Smash Bros. In a couple of months, hopefully, means I can pack up the Wii U.
Mm.
Yeah, mine's gathering dust, but I'm happy with the time I had with it because of some of those games I mentioned before. And yeah, I even failed to mention Mario Kart and Smash as well. But I'm sure there's some others that I probably forgot. Who could think of the classics like Nintendo Land and all that sort of stuff? Like,
I got Mario Party, what was it? 9 or
10?
10?
Would have been 10, yeah.
10. I got that thinking this will be good with the Wii U. Like, this will be a good party game. And it was probably the worst Mario Party game ever.
I don't know how they stuffed those up. So they had Mario Party, which was meh, and they had they didn't have WarioWare, but they had Game & Wario, which was just a few little mini games. And they could have done an incredible WarioWare on the Wii U. That's what the thing's made for.
But they put it on DS, didn't they? Or the last one?
No, there wasn't one on 3DS. The last one was on Wii, I think. Smooth Moves, yeah.
Oh, really?
it's been that long.
Yeah.
It's been that long.
Yeah. Did you guys get into the WarioWare games at all?
I think they've only played one, and that was Twisted, the one for the Game Boy Advance. Where it had the gyro thing in the cartridge, and you kind of tilted around. Like, there was some cool little things there, like picking your nose. But
If that's the GBA one, that's the one I played also. That's
yeah,
the only one
I think that's the right one.
There were two on GBA. There was a normal one, then there was the one with the WarioWare Twisted.
But
All I remember is like a close up of his face on the. I don't know. Couldn't tell you which one it was though.
The one with the nose and the moustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool components to the Switch. So I would hope that they do look to bring it back in some way. Like, I mean, WarioWare games are based around a gimmick, whatever that gimmick happens to be, a particular feature of the system it's on or whatever. There's plenty of those. I mean, thankfully, Nintendo's doing a pretty good job of using them at the moment, but there's plenty of gimmicky sort of features to the Switch. So if they can really take advantage of it, then they could make a really, really good WarioWare game for the Switch.
Yeah, for sure. I that's the game I think I want most, apart from Smash Bros. On the Switch, is a new WarioWare game. Especially if it's like you can play it just handheld mode and also have like a sort of a party mode on the TV. I think that'd be really awesome. Yeah, because Bryce and I, we used to just do like competitive I don't know how you do. Oh wait, we went for higher scores. That was a lot of fun. I just want to bring that back.
It's not about IP. There's cool things they can do with it. It's just a matter of whether they can really get the creative juices going and make it happen on the Switch.
Yeah. So, Dylan, I've got a question I want to ask you. You being Mr. Trophy Man over on Platinum Explosion.
Sure.
Nintendo Switch has no achievement system. Would you want to see an achievement system on Switch, or you're too engrossed in sort of the PlayStation trophies?
No. Well, no, I do want one because I believe every console and system should have an achievement-based system on something. And I don't need to... Like, I have an Xbox. I have a PC. I haven't dived down the road of Steam achievements or Achievos on my Xbox. But they're still nice to have. And when I play games on either of those systems, I still like seeing them pop up, and I still look at them and go, oh, what was that for? What was that little thing for? So I still look at them, but because I'm committed to the PlayStation trophy ecosystem, that's where I spend all my time, hashtag trophy hunting or whatever you want to call it. I think Nintendo has they're missing opportunity to come out and probably put out the best. They could put out the best achievement, whatever system of all of them, if they did it right, I think. Like, I don't know what you call it. Coins?
Yeah, they could have it mean a little bit more, I guess, couldn't they? Because on all the other platforms, it's sort of like, that's cool, but there's not really a huge payoff in-game.
Mm-hmm. I think they could come out with a system where you could redeem the stuff for either virtual items and stuff, or maybe even the real items. I'd say you could tie it into Club Nintendo back in the day, but of course now they've replaced that with whatever the new one's called.
Yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, I don't know, the new thing, but...
Yeah, I forgot what it is too. My Nintendo, that's the one.
Yep, My Nintendo. So you could... I would like to see them come out with a system tied into My Nintendo where your points could be redeemed for your little things. Like, off Club Nintendo, I redeemed, like glasses wiping, cloths, whatever they're called.
The lint cloths.
Link cloths, thank you. Which seems silly. It's like, oh, that costs like 5,000 points or something ridiculous. But if I could get link cloths for my glasses off achievements playing my Switch game, that'd be cool. That's a little item. Yeah. It's really cool. And you don't need to go crazy. You don't need to be like, oh, X amount of points, you can redeem a free Nintendo game. Like, because people will start abusing the system eventually and like playing the equivalent of your Hannah Montanas on the Switch, of course. That's the worry that people get to straight away with the points being redeemable for stuff. But you don't put those kinds of items on there. You put these small things that people might appreciate, and I think it's not drastic enough to draw in people to abuse the system. But even if they do, so what? They abuse all the Hannah Montana games, they get their link cloths, and then what? You know, it's not the end of the world, so...
Yeah. All the companies are still getting money, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
What do you think, Paul?
No, I much agree with Dylan. Like, at the end of the day, even if you do have that minority, and those people are a minority that really would try and game it. So say, like, Dylan, we know you've got Hannah Montana trophies, but like the people who would try like take that even further, where they're gaming that so that they can win or like earn a prize or something at the end. At the end of the day, like you said, they're forking over money to Nintendo anyway. Even if it's a third-party game, there's still a slice of that pie that goes towards Nintendo. Nintendo still wins regardless. They make more money probably on the sale of one game than it does for them to manufacture that lint cloth or whatever it happens to be that they give away to a very small portion of people who've rigged the system. And then those who kind of play their games honestly, and well, not honestly, but they're not playing it to kind of rig the system in any way, shape, or form. They all benefit in time as well. And there's that sense of achievement that comes with it. Like, I did this and I got this thing from it, which is what underpins trophies and achievements, be it on Xbox and PC anyway, but you can come away with a tangible thing, which is an extra layer.
Like, if you look at Mario Odyssey, I would love to go and collect all the moons. I haven't done it. That's something I would like to do. And if there was an achievement system built in where I could show off 100%, I got all the moons. Like, someone clicks on my profile, like, this guy got all the moons in Mario Odyssey. That's a more attractive reason to me and a lot of other people with the brains wired the way ours are to want to go and collect all the moons in that game. Because you can do it now and you can post a screenshot on Twitter or whatever like, oh, here it is, I got all the moons. Cool. I want that on my profile constantly. I want people to see my... Like, another game I'd love to get all the achievements in would have been Golf Story, because I played so much of that game and I absolutely loved it. That was my top 10 games last year. If there was a trophy or achievement list equivalent for that, I would have got or tried to get all the achievements on my Switch for that game, because I like it that much. I would have just done it to show off how much I like that game. So I think it's a missed market to not have achievements on Switch.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the same way, but the only reason I'm sort of happy achievements or trophies aren't necessarily on Switch, because when I first got my Vita, I got pretty much obsessed with trophies, and I was just like, I was doing what you do a lot for, like the challenges you do over there at the network, and yeah, I was only like, how many trophies are in this game, or how do I get this platinum? But when I come to like a Nintendo console, I'm like, don't have to worry about achievements or...
It's just the experience.
I can just play the game,
It's a freeing experience. I get what you mean, because I do get to times where I will be like, I really want to play this game, and my first reaction is to Google it to find out if there's missable trophies or the trophy difficulty, and sometimes I've been really pumped to sit down and play a game, and I've not ended up playing it because I've looked at it and been like, missable trophies, there's no guide yet, I'm not going to play this shit. So yeah, I understand what you mean. Like, anytime I play my Switch, it's just like, I'm just playing the game without ever thinking about it. So yeah. That's the addictive personality thing.
Yeah, like in Mario Kart, I was going for like all the gold parts for your car and all the characters and all the unlocks, and that was almost like ticking off an achievement list, but you're actually getting things in game as well.
Yep.
Which I guess is a bit more rewarding, since they can see that you've got a gold car and gold, was it Mario, if you do all the stuff, which is pretty cool.
But you can have both. Like, a lot of games, even on PlayStation, of course, they'll be trophies for unlocking a certain level or a rank in a multiplayer shooter, and then you have that item or rank in game, but you still have the trophy to show off.
Well, I still remember the original Uncharted. So that came out to PS3, and that was in an era before trophies had actually existed. And I got a whole bunch of they were medals in game, if I recall. Yeah, medals.
Yep.
And I got the overwhelming majority of them. I won't go as far as to say all, but I got the majority of them. I don't think I did crushing or any of that sort of stuff because I'm a scrub. But then trophies finally launched, and Uncharted was amongst the first batch of games to kind of get those patches added to it to improve that. They never did with Assassin's Creed, and I still hate Ubisoft for it.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I don't want to go back to anywhere near that awful experience.
Even in the collections?
The original game,
in the collection.
The original game, couldn't.
The original game isn't even in the collection.
And
it's the Ezio trilogy, so it's two
Brotherhood, and
whatever the other one.
That other one,
Revolution.
That's the one.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
But as soon as those trophies launched in the likes of Uncharted, and there was a few others as well, well, the first thing I did was go back and replay all those things and try and pop as many as I could.
Yep.
There's that kind of carrot that, like, as one of you said, there's this thing in us that we kind of like to want to show off what we've achieved and what we've done, and that thing there that kind of allows you
gamers like to show off.
Yeah.
It's like it's a thing.
So being able to compare to someone else, which is why I get a little bummed whenever I jump on my PlayStation trophies and see Dylan's. I'm like, well, never getting there. I can never beat my chest at any point unless he is far away or dead. Because like that's never a level I'm going to get to. But it is like within the little pockets of other friendship groups that I'm a part of. That's kind of something they notice. And I go, geez, how did you get that level? Like, how are you so high? What'd you do to get that trophy? Blah, 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 blah. And then I go, well, I'm not all that high, but you should see this guy.
Yeah. Because at the moment, all it is like, you can see that I've put 400 hours into Breath of the Wild. You can't see anything else you've done in that game. It would be nice if you can see, you've got 50 Korok seeds, 100 Korok seeds, 150 Korok seeds, maybe, I don't know, beaten this divine beast, beaten all the divine beasts, beaten Ganon. Like, you can actually see a log of what's happened in the game. But
You can look at a lot of these games and very easily just start to picture what the list layout would be for them. And you can picture just like clicking on your friend's profile, because where it is now, it's just got Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, 400 hours. Next to that, put in a little progress bar. That's the completage to the trophy percentage. And then just make it so you can just click on that and it opens up the achievement list. It's very easy. I can picture it right now. Nintendo, ring me. I'll do it.
Yeah, I think they've got a few more things to work out, though. Just, you can't even message people, so I don't know where an achievement system's
All right, get that voice chat fixed first, and then message system, maybe something else, and then the trophies list. Yeah, that's right. It's still in there. It's still top. Still top. What would you call it? What would you name it? I need names. What would you want it to be?
I would call it Stamps. I don't know, that's just the one they used on Wii U.
I figured it'd be coins.
Yeah, my go-to was coins as well. That's what
and
my
I figured
brain
like
went to.
that structure even fits in with something similar to what PlayStation's doing with trophies. Where you can have bronze, silver, gold coins.
Yep.
The platinum coin is that, like, and whether they try and rip it off completely. Look, Nintendo does weird and crazy things, so I'm sure they're not going to do a complete knockoff. But there's a structure there that you can kind of follow and adhere to, and replicate, and it's a pretty easy one to achieve. So.
Yeah, because it sort of looked like they were going to go down the achievement route when they launched their mobile games like Fire Emblem and that. You can earn certain currency by doing certain things, so they were achievements. So if you've done a certain thing, you might get a gold coin. If you do another thing, you might get a platinum coin. And those gold coins and platinum coins, you can spend them on different rewards. But it never came to actually, like, you know, proper Nintendo games outside of the mobile.
I'm going to be highly surprised if they don't patch it in, because if it isn't patched in and it's not on their next console, I would just be lost. Like, I feel like it's just one of these things that you kind of have to have, I feel, to some extent.
It's sort of been too long at this point, though.
Mm.
It feels like
Nintendo's late to every party I've been at, so...
Karen's always right on
halfway
time.
through your scotch, and they rock up, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So, did you guys bring any topics?
I've got one for you. And we've kind of half dealt with it a little bit, I guess.
All right.
I was going to talk about what is kind of missing from the Switch, and not to just sit and rail on the Switch, but like what sort of experiences, be it some of this online stuff that we've spoken about, what sorts of games, what is it that we're looking for in the Switch that would enhance the experience further for us. And I'm not talking about the release of, like, we know that Smash is going to come along eventually and it's going to be awesome, whether it's a remaster of what came before or a new one. So there's some inevitabilities around the whole thing, but what sort of thing is missing from that, be it a Nintendo catalog or something that a third party could bring to the table? What is it that's kind of missing from that Switch experience?
This is only like a little tiny one, but a lot of people wouldn't care about this, but I would like to see some video streaming platforms come to the Switch, like YouTube, Netflix, etc. Like, I don't think it will necessarily replace my PS4 from a media hub, but sometimes when I'm just getting out of a game, it's just easier to go into the Switch or bring the Switch with me to bed or whatever to play. And it's not a big one, but that's one I would like to see.
I mean, the whole thing for me, and I don't know, Dylan, if you've got something ready to go, the whole thing I had in my head, and it was something I've been thinking about in the last couple of days or so, there's a lot of those zeitgeist games that are coming up at the moment. Now, Nintendo's had a couple of those. Breath of the Wild is a great example. But we know what to expect from a Zelda game, for the most part anyway. So when someone who maybe doesn't own a Switch sees, Nintendo's announced a new Zelda or a new Mario, they've already got a decent idea in their head what it is, and have probably made the decision already as to whether they want to buy it or not. And, you know, there's a few that maybe get swung one way or the other based on what they do in the game, but the overwhelming majority have already made up their mind. But I'm looking for that kind of thing from Nintendo that's a little bit out of the box. And Splatoon was that last gen, but it got launched on a platform that wasn't overly appealing, as we discussed before. It's kind of popped up in my head the last few days because we've had, over this last console generation, I'm talking specifically about the PS4 and the Xbox One, we've had, like, Destiny kind of launched. And it had some warts, but for the most part, like, it took the world by storm. Like, that's all anyone wanted to talk about for weeks and months. The Division came along and maybe didn't quite hit to the same level, but it certainly generated similar sort of buzz and conversation. Destiny 2 did it, and now most recently, and I was playing it up until about an hour before we sat down to start recording. Monster Hunter has kind of generated the same sort of thing. And these are games that, like, you go to your IGNs or GameSpots of the world, and that is the main featured conversation of almost every little message board or forum on the internet, because people are sharing ideas and discussing the things they found. And Zelda did that, but again, we kind of know what to expect from a Zelda. So I'm looking for something that would attract crowds to the Switch or the Nintendo platform in ways that their established IP haven't yet.
Yeah, one game I would love to see sort of take on the multiplayer role a bit more is hopefully going to be Metroid Prime 4. I know it's mainly the Prime series is known for its single player, but I don't know if you guys played the DS game Metroid Prime Hunters.
I dabble with it a little bit.
Yeah, Bryce and I have talked a lot about it on the show, but basically it had a multiplayer mode where you can play as 8 hunters and they all have different abilities. And while it was a bit clunky on the DS, aiming with the touchscreen or just the buttons, it was really well thought out. Like the fact that you can choose your hunter, they've got different morph forms, different bombs, different abilities, different weapons. Yeah. And I think if they elaborate on that, put it on a platform that's going to make it look good, control good, and also have the install base, I think Metroid could potentially do something a bit more than if it's just sticking to the single player.
I know what you mean. I was gonna say something very similar to that, Paul. Because when I think about Sony, people don't look at the PS4 and go, "Oh, here's all these franchises that I know Sony have been making for their entire life. Oh, I'm not going to buy a PS4 because it's just like the 3rd or 4th or 10th iteration of that game." People can see something coming up like your Days Gone or your Detroit Become Human, anything like that, and go, "Oh, that's new. They're new things. That's interesting, exciting." The Switch at the moment, most of it's still just like Mario, Zelda, and I know this is kind of what Nintendo's like, but it is Mario, Zelda, and what's coming out soon, Donkey Kong. Then you got a Yoshi game this year as well. You know, like it's just all the same stuff. And for the people who don't like that stuff from Nintendo, who, well, honestly, probably don't listen to this show. If you don't, any people that don't like that stuff probably aren't listening to this show. But the people that, and they exist, that don't like those Nintendo franchises are looking for something new to grab them. And the last franchise or new IP they did put out was Splatoon. And although it is, I suppose, moderately successful now, and it's really popular on Twitch and all sorts of stuff like that, and by all accounts, great game. Personally, I haven't played it. It didn't get a great start because it was launched on the Wii U, which was a console no one wanted to buy apart from Nintendo heavy fans. The hardcore. So they really do need to come out. And I don't know if it's Nintendo or they get a third party, like they do a partnership, kind of like what they did with, I'm mental blanking on the Rabbids. Rabbids
Mario
thing.
Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Great. That's exciting. That came out. I really, really like that game. I haven't finished it because it got to a point where I was like, holy shit, this game just suddenly turned really hard and I don't know what happened. Like this was really easy and then the difficulty switch. But that was great. That was left field. That was an exciting partnership to see Nintendo team up with Ubisoft. We need to see more of that and we need them not to have their characters in it. Or something like that. You need Nintendo to get in bed with another developer to work on a new IP that isn't just solely coming from Nintendo, and it needs to not have the Mario and stuff in it. You know, team up with Ubisoft again to do a cool franchise from the ground up that could be Switch exclusive, but they're not bringing their own characters to bed. Just team up. You're like, cool guys, we've set the grounds now. Now we're going to come up with something cool, new and exciting that I can walk past on a EB Games, see it on a giant poster. Switch game, that looks really cool. I'm intrigued in a Switch now. That's what you need people to be doing.
And even expanding on that, making, so you're talking about third parties, establishing the right relationships with the right IP at the right time. So Monster Hunter, and I'll use that as the example because it is the fresh one, but it's been big in Japan on the PSP for years. It came across the 3DS and the Wii and the Wii U, and still in the West, it never cracked. For some reason, whatever it is, Monster Hunter World has hit the mark here. Nintendo now needs to get back in Capcom's ear and go, okay, so this thing is now talk of the town. People want in on this franchise. What can we do about getting, I don't know, Monster Hunter XX, I think, was one that was released in Japan only for the Switch or something like that. What can we? Let's get this into the West, because at the moment it's these sort of games, it's these shared world experiences, these ones that people can sit down, and admittedly that means Nintendo needs to fix their online system, which supposedly will happen in September or whatever it is that they're going to show off everything, which is a bloody long time. That's a long time to wait.
Ages away.
Well, and that's only when they're going to talk about it, let alone when they roll it out.
Yeah.
But if like these are the sorts of experiences that people are gravitating towards at the moment, and they need to get themselves one of them, and whether that is leveraging one of their own IP. And Metroid is, I mean, we think of Metroid typically as that isolating sort of experience. Maybe that is the IP though that they could make it work with, if they can kind of harness that aspect, but keep the isolating feel, and like there's things going on around you that maybe you can't control. Like I don't know how. I'm not a game designer, whatever. But like if they can leverage the right IP and get people in the door, that's going to really help them. And then those who maybe put up a bit of a barrier to your Zeldas or Marios or whatever because they said, hey, they're all the same or whatever it is, well, they've got the platform. Maybe they'll go out and pick them up, or it's on sale or whatever the case may be. And they change their opinion. And maybe they become another one of the Nintendo hardcore. And not that we're trying to build some all-encompassing army, but perception is reality, and at the moment there's a bunch of people out there that perceive these Nintendo IP in a certain way and need to have a reason to join the platform and then try them out again to potentially change their mind. And maybe they won't, but
yeah,
you'll never know until you try.
Last year especially, they had done a good job of trying to sort of bring more people in, whether it was completely changing the format of Zelda, giving people the Mario game they wanted, and also they did bring out ARMS last year, which did not set the world on fire, but it was a good start to bringing in new IP from a developer at the company that I forgot what I was going to say now. Like a young developer that's not just Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, whatever it may be. To their credit, Nintendo in recent years, and some of it did begin on the Wii U, but to their credit, they have looked to explore new IP in recent years. We just spoke about Splatoon and ARMS, and Xenoblade got its first gig there, and I mean that's a big open world JRPG, and there's 3 of them now. Like that's awesome. And there's Captain Toad, and I mean Luigi's Mansion's kind of dating back to the GameCube now, but if there's room for them to do a little bit more with that, I firmly believe that is something that could work with Labo. Let's put that backpack on the vacuum on your back and go for it. Like that's more of an experience, not a core game. But
you just sold me on Labo, by the way. Like I wasn't in, but I'm in.
Can you imagine waving that vacuum around? You just put
can now. I hadn't thought of that, and now I'm like
Joy-Con in the end with the IR sensor out, and you're swinging it around and sucking up ghosts.
You've sold me. If that becomes a real thing, I'm there. That's great.
Yeah, I think I just sold myself. Pokemon Snap, make me a camera. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's getting in bed with the right companies or right developers and getting the right IP on your platform at the right time. And they seem to be on the right track because they are responding to feedback. There was years and years where people said Nintendo is not listening to its consumers. They keep putting out the same things over and over, and sales are diminishing. And
that was right too.
And then Breath of the Wild happened, and they took notice of not necessarily what people were saying, though I'm sure they probably did as well. But they looked at some of the current trends in the industry and said, okay, we can make one of these, but we can still do it our quirky Nintendo different way. And they found the sweet spot. And it's it's the highest selling Zelda game in Japan already, and it's flying off shelves still. And Zelda games normally tail off pretty quickly. They start off like a house on fire, but then they tail off really quickly, and that's not happening in this case, and that says something. Mario always sells, but people are thrilled with what they got.
What was it at last time? 9 million copies sold worldwide. Like that's nuts for a system that sold 14.
Yeah, the attach rate's massive. So if they've got to listen to their audiences, and if they and pay attention to what other audiences are going for and try and attract those people over.
Like what you said earlier about going to third parties and getting them to make them like exclusives. I feel like a lot of third parties wouldn't really be interested in that because they can just make their own game, put it on all consoles rather than just take Nintendo's money and go with it from there. But taking their IP, I think, is sort of the excitement. Like when Ubisoft told that they can
play with
use
Mario.
Yeah, that'll be. I would imagine that would be just over the moon. But if they just went to him and said, "Make us a game about make us a Rabbids exclusive," I don't think they'll be as excited.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got I can't remember the guy's name, but you know the guy who was making a bunch of those Ubisoft, like not indies, but those indies inside, like Child of Light and stuff like that. So whoever makes that, whose name I can't pronounce because I'm pretty sure it's like French and I'd gibber it. That person, those types of creatives have all these fantastic ideas, and even though they're inside the company, they're still being told, maybe not. But then someone like that could take risk. Maybe Nintendo could risk money on those sorts of ideas. Would it pay off? I don't know, but I feel like they need to make. They're at the time where they need to make those sorts of risky ideas or plays, especially if in-house at Nintendo it's just the same sort of people for a very long time. Because you know what the Japanese culture and stuff like that is. It's the inside of Nintendo doesn't change often. As much as other companies. It's people stay there longer. The types of ideas that are kicking around inside that company are being not stale, but like similar for longer periods of time than I feel like other companies are. So going to someone else or even just coming to America or somewhere else like that and hiring a whole bunch of new people, which wouldn't happen because it's a Japanese company and that would never happen. But something like that to refresh and kick some fresh air inside there, I feel like would help a lot when they're trying to start a new IP specifically. Like they don't need help with Mario. They're fine. They know what they're doing.
Odyssey 2 on the way next year.
Yeah, they've got it. It's fine. Yeah.
Because the teams that have made Odyssey and all that, they are younger teams, and you are sort of seeing that freshness in the IP, especially like back in the Wii days. I don't know if you're like me and you're just sick of seeing all the Wii Sports, Wii Fit, whatever. So that's fine. That's for the audience they've found. But when it's New Super Mario Bros. Wii and the list goes on throughout, maybe even the DS, where it sort of just becomes stale. And the Wii U, I think the Wii U was just the perfect amalgamation of the Wii worked, let's do it again, but we don't have a hook or any magic to it this time. And especially with the Wii, I feel like it's really hard to make a Nintendo console sell so bad. I don't know how they've done it, but they've done it.
It reminds me of their Wii U play reminds me a lot of Sony when they did the PS3, which was Sony comes out of PS2 feeling so on top of the world and full of themselves that they released the PS3 at the ridiculous price, and they're like, oh, everyone will buy it because we're the best, and and then everyone's like, for years, like, Sony, you freaking suck, no one likes you anymore, and they're like, then they get backed into a corner and they have to like fire a bunch of people and, you know, punch their demons out and be like, we're kind of crappy people, why did we do that? And then they come back and they fix up from there. Nintendo was on top of the world, like, well, not on top of the world, but just making a hell of a lot of money off the Wii, and they're like, well, this thing sold 1 trillion billion trillion copies, let's just put out the same thing and people will buy it again, like, ha ha ha, that's funny, like everyone will buy it again. Then they got screwed over because people were like, no, this thing's kind of crap, it's not great. So
yeah.
I still think there's a prestige, and whether it's with the third parties, there's a prestige around having that. And I know the Nintendo seal of quality is not really a big thing anymore, but there's still a bit of a carryover from that. Releasing a game on a Nintendo platform still means a lot. So to your point before, if whether it's a multi-platform release or something that's exclusive, there is something to that, and it means a lot maybe not necessarily to the gamer, but it still means a lot to a developer. There's like Nintendo is in the hearts of an overwhelming majority of the number of developers out there. Being able to release their game on a Nintendo platform means a lot, and it'd be great for them and, of course, the fans in turn for more of these franchises to make their way across. And, of course, there's limitations with the hardware. But I think about that Monster Hunter opportunity, and they have things that are just releasing in Japan, and it's a perfect opportunity right now to, all right, let's strike while the iron's hot. Let's get this thing localized, get it into the West, whilst Monster Hunter fever is kind of at its peak, and, well, hopefully not peak. I hope this thing keeps growing and growing. But let's entice a few of those PS4 and Xbox One owners that found this new IP that, you know, is taking them by storm. Let's get them over, try out a new console, try out some new franchises they may not have messed around with before, and everyone kind of wins in the meantime, because it is that prestige thing for the developers.
I feel like Nintendo must be kicking themselves. They've had Monster Hunter exclusively on their platform for years. Then when it goes over to the other two platforms, it just explodes.
Thing is, it came over to a Nintendo platform when Nintendo platforms were a bit of a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially
Rightly or
the Wii U
wrongly.
when they had it. Was it Monster Hunter Tri?
3 Ultimate.
Ultimate, was it? Yep. So they had that, and you know, no one really had a Wii U then, and they didn't particularly care. I remember I was interested in it back then, but never really gave it a go.
Even with the 3DS one, which I knew a whole heap of people that would gather together and sit around a table and just all play that together. I feel like even that and the 3DS, great console, but at the time, as Paul said, the name Nintendo was still a bit of the joke because the Wii U was out at the time. So, like, when that's your premier in front, your main console, even if you've got this handheld is great, it's like if your main thing's a joke to a lot of people, and by like people that own PS4s, Xbox, PC players, most of the people I knew, then Nintendo was a joke for those several years when the Wii U out. It was just a big joke. Like, Nintendo's dead. Like, what is this? Tupperware crap, you know? Like, so... and that kind of turns people off playing the handheld as well, I feel like, to a degree. I still owned a 3DS. I played a lot of 3DS, had a lot of fun with it, but a lot of people wouldn't buy Nintendo stuff because they thought Nintendo was this crappy kids gaming console. Yeah. So affects people.
Like it done well on 3DS, but it's nowhere near how it was now. Is Capcom's best-selling game? Like 5 million shipped? Fastest? Yeah, okay.
Doesn't surprise me.
That's insane.
But I mean, that says a lot, given that this is the same company that has Resident Evil and, most importantly, Street Fighter in its catalogue.
Yeah.
No
joke.
My opinion on the Monster Hunter thing, though, is it came out at the perfect time, and I feel like that has a lot to do with it. Like, there's nothing else out. There's nothing else out, and it comes out. Like, if you didn't care about Dragon Ball or Shadow of the Colossus around the time, the majority of this year has just been Monster Hunter, and what else are you going to play?
Especially compared to those games, you can really sink your teeth into it as well.
Yep.
You play it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours.
If you're someone who's like, I don't have the money to buy heaps of games, and I'm going to buy one every 2 to 3 months, you look at Monster Hunter and you go, that's where my money's going. It's not going on Shadow of the Colossus for a couple hours on my PS4. It's not going on this Dragon Ball game. I don't like fighting games. It's not going on XYZ. Monster Hunter can supply me with 1,000+ hours of content. I'm buying that. I don't know if I'll like it, but I like the way, because a lot of people do think about that like dollar to hour thing. So it's worth my money. It's worth it. It's got the hours. I'll try it.
And the cool thing is, that in terms of that particular franchise, Sony and Microsoft have now done all the legwork for Nintendo. That franchise is a thing in the West. Make it happen, guys. Like they twist a few arms, and it's now a big thing over here thanks to the work that other companies have done. But Nintendo could just pull a few strings and grease a few palms, and there we go. We're like, it's not necessarily exclusive to Nintendo platforms again. I'm sure we'll see a Monster Hunter World 2 or something to that effect. But the IP is bouncing between different platforms. There's releases on Nintendo ones, and hell, the ability to play Monster Hunter portably, which obviously you could already do, but to those who only just got their first taste of it in World, the fact that I can play whatever this next Monster Hunter game is on my Switch, be it XX or something else that comes afterwards, I I can take it with me and keep playing, and then maybe come back and pop it in the dock and keep going, or pick up Monster Hunter World 2 and keep going. Like, they can just completely consume themselves in this franchise and have a blast with it. And there's the potential for more franchises to do the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It is Monster Hunter World not coming to Switch is a little bit disappointing, because just knowing how grindy and how many hours you need to put into it, it's kind of ideal for Switch. Just put it on the TV while just hunting the same monster again and again to try and get different drops. It seems like, to me, it seems a bit much just to have it on the TV all the time. So I dare say the Switch would help with that if it comes to that.
My last, I don't know if it's a hot take, as for like number one thing I'd like to see Nintendo do for the Switch.
Oh, here we go. Hot takes on the show.
I don't know if it is a hot take, because I know it's something else people talk about as well, is cancel the DS. I use my Switch as a handheld 98% of the time. I've played it docked 2-3 times. Everything else, I've played handheld. I play all of Odyssey handheld. I've played all of the Zelda I've played is all handheld. I've docked it to play Mario Kart, and that is it. So when I see all these games that I'm interested in coming to DS still, my mind, because it just thinks of the Switch as a handheld, because that's the way I play it, is like, why? Can you just put these on the console I play? I still own a DS, but I want to play them on my Switch. I want to get this Detective Pikachu game. I want to play it on my Switch. I would sell both I was nearly going to sell all my 3DSs. I own 2. I sold one the other week. I was going to sell my other one because I'm just like, I've touched this thing in so long. And then they announced Detective Pikachu, and I watched the trailer. I'm like, God damn it. Now I have to keep one of these damn 3DSs around so I can play Detective Pikachu. But I could sell it and play Detective Pikachu if they just can it. I know it's not going to happen because they've got the install base. That's like obviously the biggest thing. It's like so many 3DSs out there, and they can put out a game and people are going to buy it. But that's my dream. My dream thing is just they just go, Switch is the Nintendo console, the Nintendo console. There's not the handheld and a thing. It's everything.
I think we're pretty close to that.
No, I think they actually said it in a investors meeting that Nintendo aren't going to be developing brand new software for it now. I think it's going to be like stuff like Detective Pikachu, which has been out in Japan for a year or so. So they're just basically translating it and bringing it over now.
Yeah, these are kind of the dregs that are coming over now.
Yeah, so you're going to see
without wanting to sound horrendously disrespectful to Metroid and Detective Pikachu, but they are kind of the dregs now.
Well, last year I think we saw the last of the brand new software coming out, because I dare say Nintendo was like, is this thing going to work or not, the Switch? We don't know. It might be another Wii U. Obviously the Switch has been their most successful console from the gate so far,
and they haven't even had a Pokemon release on it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, a core Pokemon.
As Mr. Nintendo, how do you feel about that? Because obviously I'm here as someone who plays Switch, but I'm not that's not my main console. Is ditching the DS library and just going full in on Switch, is that fine by you?
Yeah, that's good. I think it is a bit sad saying goodbye to the DS, because you've had the DS and the 3DS around for about
very long time.
It's a decade and a half, actually, if you count the first DS and the 3DS line together. It's been a long time, but they've got a good thing going with the Switch, having all of their effort going into one system. So you'll see a lot more games from Nintendo, I think. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Because I feel like if you can kind of layer a cake of, if you can the DS and you count the DS games. I say DS, I'm talking about 3DS, obviously. If you count the DS games as like the middleware of the games, and then the main Switch, like your Breath of the Wild, is like their AAA, and then their AA could be these games that they were already kind of designing as DS. They're like your AA ones. And then you've got your A, which would be their Nindies they're bringing over now. And I feel like having that, like, here's your AAA Nintendo games, here's your AA Nintendo games. Like, they're not the big ones. They're the ones that would go to handhelds. And then here we've also got all these indie games being made by third publishers coming over. That makes me happy to have that nice mix, you know? It's like if they put out a proper AAA Metroid, and then on the same console, you've still got your side-scrolling AA, or however you want to word it, Metroid on the same console. You're not like, here's my main Metroid on my Switch, here's my step-down Metroid on my 3DS. Just all on the same console.
I mean, whilst I don't think they'd ever consider them to be step down, but I know you were just kind of using that.
Yeah, I was trying to
word.
Yeah,
I think I absolutely agree. There's people clamoring for, say, your 2D top-down Zeldas.
They're my favourite.
Link Between
They're the only
Worlds
ones
sort
I
of
like.
style experience, and the fact that there's a possibility we could be getting both of these styles of experiences, your Breath of the Wilds and your Link Between Worlds, on the same system is fantastic.
I like home menu. I switch between a top-down Zelda and I go back into Breath of the Wild, like all on the same thing. That picturing that makes me happy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I really hope they don't get rid of sort of the top-down Zeldas and the 2D Marios. I don't want to see them disappear.
They love.
Want to see a really hot take? Want to see a really, really hot take while I'm on the Nintendo podcast?
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready for a hot take.
You ready for this? Favorite Zelda game is a GBA one. Mm-hmm. Try and guess it.
Minish Cap.
The only one?
Minish Cap, correct. That is my favorite Zelda game of all time.
It is a gem, that game.
It is the
Absolutely,
best.
Yeah.
And I want more like that. I even like Spirit Tracks.
I really like Spirit Tracks. I didn't like Phantom Hourglass.
I feel like people hated both though, didn't they? Like it was like everyone just hated for some reason all those ones. Or did people like Spirit and hate Phantom?
I can't remember how
maybe
it broke down.
I do.
Okay.
I just hated going back to that same temple again and again, redoing the same stuff. It wasn't even fun the first time, let alone having to redo it, 3 times that first room.
But you could talk to your console.
You could blow. You could blow.
Yeah. No.
And...
You don't cheat and blow in the microphone. You actually speak to it. You got to get in the zone with the games. Say what it wants you to. It's part of the experience.
A bit of a rub.
But I would love those Zelda games. Say the Phantom Hourglasses and the top down Zelda ones. They're on the Switch store. They're not cheaper than they normally would be. Still charge $60 or $40 or somewhere around there, maybe $40. Chop it down a bit if you can make it
does
cheaper.
need to be cheaper than $80.
Yeah, so maybe the $60 sounds about right. It's a little bit cheaper than your full price Switch game, but it's still up there, and it's not like, oh, but when this was on a DS, it was a full price game. I'd like to see that. That's what I'd like to see the most.
Yeah, so would I. Did you guys give Blossom Tales a go on Switch?
Not yet, but that's the one that's very much a Zelda style experience, right? Like much like Link to the Past.
Yeah, so it's almost they really are not afraid that it's like Zelda. So it's got your hearts, it's got upgrades, items. You pretty much play it exactly like you play a Link to the Past. But what I really liked about it is the dungeons were really, really thought out like they'd be in a Zelda game, but the game, it took me about 13 hours, so it's not a huge game to get through. It sort of just gives you like a really nice condensed Zelda game and you're done.
Yep.
That's because like a lot of indie games, they might not get the Zelda feeling right, or it goes too long or whatever, but this one gave me the same feeling as I would in a Link Between Worlds or a Link to the Past, where I'm actually really enjoying exploring the land, and that's one of the things I like most about Zelda. So I was really surprised when they actually captured the same feeling. I thought it was awesome.
I haven't seen this at all. How much is it? Is that $20?
Yeah, $20. Yeah,
nice. I'll chuck it on the wish list. Keep my eye on it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely worth it. I had a bit of a back and forth with the writer of the game on Twitter, and he's always happy to sort of just chat about it. And
Is the story interesting enough, or is it kind of like, because Zelda story's there, but I wouldn't say it's unless you dig into the lore more. A Zelda story a lot of the times just you're an adventurer, go here, the thing. Is the story in this game a bit more elaborate?
Not necessarily. It's fairly by the numbers, but the way they set up the story is really cool. So basically, you're 2 kids, and there's a grandpa basically just reading them a story. So when you go into the game, you'll get to a temple, for example, then the text comes up, and it's basically the grandpa describing to the kids what's happening in that story. So the whole story is just a book being read by the grandpa, pretty much.
That's cool.
I was hoping that'd be almost based on what you were starting to sell me there. I was hoping to be the unreliable narrator sort of thing, where he starts telling stories. Like, no, Grandpa, that's not how it goes.
Was this How I Met Your Mother with
those
Zelda?
Sort of things are awesome.
there are a couple of scenes like that where
good.
it reverses. You're like, oh, okay. So
really?
it does cool things with that, but there's an evil wizard, and eventually you go and beat him. That's the story. So it's not super different necessarily, but I appreciate how they presented it. It was really cool.
It's cool.
Yeah. Do you have another topic, Dylan? Or
I was just going to chuck out random franchises that you would like to see revitalized by Nintendo, brought to the Switch. My two go-tos are, one, I want a Golden Sun game.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
Number two, I want a Pokemon the trading card game. Like a proper one.
Yep.
Like the Game Boy one, which was really good, and they haven't touched that since. As far as I'm aware, they haven't touched that
I
since.
actually thought there was something in the Pokemon trade, like, what was it? It was the 3DS, I think, where they released it was courtesy of the Virtual Console for the 3DS. They put the original trading card game up on the store, and I thought,
yep.
Oh, this is an opportunity. Like they're teasing.
It sold really well. I remember seeing a story
Nintendo.
where it was like, oh, it's selling really well for like a couple weeks, and I was like, oh, it's selling well. Where's the news?
But of course, that was in the era when Nintendo didn't listen to anyone.
Yeah.
There's an app on iPad where you can play it, but it's not a big elaborate RPG or anything.
Did you play this? The trading card game one?
A little bit. I didn't play
because it was really cool because it had like it wasn't just playing matches and stuff. It was an actual story, and you would walk around this world, and that's why I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like, oh, you download the Magic the Gathering app on your phone, or you download the Yu-Gi-Oh app on your phone, and you play matches. It felt like a real world in which this event to battle and become really good at the card game basically replaced the league, and that was towards the end of the game. But it was down to earth in an alternate reality where Pokemon, the trading card game, was such a big like Olympic event, and it's just I really enjoyed that part of it. Yeah. So I'd love another
cool,
one.
It actually looks like a mainline Pokemon game.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it's weird on the thing. Yeah. And then Golden Sun, I think, is a underrated RPG that is seemingly forgotten, and I would like to see revitalized.
It was a weird one because there was lots of people who swear by, in particular, the first two entries.
Yep,
and then
first two are
What
amazing.
was the third one called? Was it?
I have no
Dark
idea.
Moon. It was Dark something. I don't think it was Dark Moon though, because I feel like I'm thinking of Luigi's Mansion.
Dawn?
Dark. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Something like
and that one just didn't like. It was well received, but not quite to the same level. And I feel like that did the franchise a little bit of a knock. But that was developed by Camelot. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they seem to be finding their own feet again. They're developing a few titles for the Switch, and like they're a company that almost since the release of that third Golden Sun game, which Dark whatever it was, they went really quiet. And I thought, okay, look, that's probably franchise over. Maybe that's the company done. I wasn't too sure about what was going, their inner workings or anything. Not too much got out, but with them starting to fire up, I'm actually the same mind as you, Dylan. I think there's the possibility of that, or that franchise should come back. Put it simply.
I feel like if Project Octopath Traveler does really well, that kind of bodes well for that genre on the Switch, especially because we obviously haven't had a game like that on the Switch. You've got games like that on DS, like of course Bravely Default and stuff like that, but you haven't had that genre hit the Switch yet until Octopath. Not AAA.
Yeah.
Yeah. One game I would really like to see, you might even have less chance than Golden Sun, but I'd love to see Earthbound / Mother come back. Like, just the goofiness, I think, would be a real nice change of pace compared to a lot of RPGs these days.
Yeah, there's a lot that are ultra serious, and Earthbound back in its time was adored for that change of pace.
Yeah, just being just almost silly.
I mean, look, at the moment we've still got to get the bloody Mother 3 thing across to a platform of some sort, but I don't know, we'll see what happens in the coming months, I guess. But there's always little teasers. I know there's that Mother 4 fan project. I don't know kind of where that's at the moment. It's been cooking for years. I thought it was meant to be out quite some time ago. But to see an official Nintendo published game from that franchise would be enormous. And see it actually make it to the West would be huge.
Yeah.
But in the event that they don't,
they'll
just make the main playable character playable in Smash Brothers, and we'll all just wonder what if.
That's what they've been doing for the last... How long has it been?
Yeah, 15, far too long.
20 years? Yeah. The last one was on Game Boy Advance in Japan. So, yeah, Mother 3, so... Oh, boy. And the other one I was thinking of was just what we talked about at the start of the show, but WarioWare. I want to see WarioWare on Switch.
Yeah.
I think that's a high chance, though. Or a lot higher than the other games we've mentioned, at least.
I hope it's a higher chance than Mother.
Yeah.
I've got one, and I think it's certainly of everything that we've mentioned there, it'll be the one that's had a release most recently. But I'd really like to see a properly developed, fully fleshed out Kid Icarus game. And I really wish I could see it. Like, and there was something I drafted way before I even started at Player 2 that I put together, but it was like my concept of what a 3D action adventure, almost very Zelda style, but not too close because obviously they've already got their Zelda. That Zelda style Kid Icarus experience could be, and I still look. I don't really remember the nitty gritties of the article now. I'll have to dig around and try and find out the old Microsoft Word piece because the article I wrote it for is now dead. But sorry, the website that I wrote for is now dead. But
Rip.
But I swear by that piece. And that franchise, I feel like the potential is there for that franchise to do some incredible things. And at the moment, it's kind of this. I wouldn't go quite as far as say goofy, but it's this knockoff of what we come to associate with 3D action adventure games, and I think it could be so much more than that. And they've just got to get the right team on board. I feel like it's the sort of thing, and this was one of the things I suggested in the piece. I think it should be developed by Retro, and the fact that they have not announced anything yet just means that it's kept that thought in the back of my brain that, come on, can it be Retro, please? I think they could do, them or anyone else, could do incredible things with that IP. There's so much to it. Yeah. And it's very different to what else there is.
What did you think of
Uprising?
Uprising on 3DS?
Shouldn't have been on the 3DS, in short. It was just too clunky and cumbersome. But there was a nugget of something really, really good there. And it was still quite good for what it was.
Yeah. Leading up to it, I was keen for it. I wasn't over the moon about it, but Pitt's in Brawl, he was my favorite Smash character. So actually, him getting a game, getting a voice, I was pretty keen to play it, and I actually absolutely adored the game. I know the controls weren't great, but I think I got over them, and I sort of really enjoyed the story, enjoyed the sort of on rails gameplay. I loved the voice acting and sort of the charm that game had. So ever since then, I've been wanting a sequel to come out. And if it's what you're describing, a sort of a more open, sort of exploratory game, sort of like the original, that would be bloody awesome.
I mean, to what the degree in which you can explore, I don't know. I mean, I could very easily see the game working in a more linear God of War sort of style, without the blood and guts, obviously, but no, that more linear sort of experience. But I could also see it working in your Breath of the Wild style, very open, even traditional Zelda sort of experience, which is far more open. There's scope for them to do a lot with that IP, and there's nothing really out there that exists in a similar genre. I guess the closest in terms of kind of angels and stuff, and this is a real stretch, the closest is probably Darksiders. And that's still miles apart in terms of its setting and those sorts of things. But even that is still miles away from what Nintendo was achieving with Kid Icarus. So it's something that could be really quite unique as well.
I was going to check out Platinum Games makes Kid Icarus.
Oh, yeah?
Ooh.
I mean, they've got the chops.
Just think about the Bayonetta sequences where you're just flying through the air, constantly fighting stuff around you. but with Pit and like less violence, obviously, more cartoony or whatever you want to describe it. But that version that excites me. That kind of game.
Yeah, just like Pit. Medusa with huge boobs and just.
Well, no one took us there. Like Platinum can make it without the boobies.
We can.
They can, but do they want to?
PG version of Bayonetta.
I was thinking of the gameplay chops, less the visual flair. Well, no, some of the visual flair, but PG.
The potential's there.
Yeah.
I guess they made Cora and they didn't make her boobs just flap everywhere. So
yeah,
they can manage. They can hold back when necessary. You know, it's fine. By the way, has anyone here played Bayonetta 1 or 2 on Switch?
Not on Switch, Adam.
Not on Switch, no.
Okay, yeah, because I played them both on Wii U, loved it. I want to pick them up on Switch. I just haven't had a chance to ask anyone who's played it if they run great or not. I've heard nothing bad, so I'll assume not.
I've heard they're running perfectly on the system.
Great,
so
that's what I want to hear. Sounds good.
I think it'd be good. What I have discovered recently, though, my mate Damo, who's unpatched for the Player 2, he's had a horrible time trying to get his hands on a copy. JB was completely sold out. EB tried to pick it up there, and they weren't doing even pick up in pick and collect or whatever it is. They pick up in store sort of stuff. They just weren't prepared to play ball because there's just not enough copies out there. So he had end up having to not stoop, but he had to turn to Amazon Australia to get it done. And I mean, we don't think of them as a big games retailer in Australia yet. So
I like hearing this because I love that franchise, and I want 3, I want 4, I want 5, I want 6. I want more of them. They're great. Keep making them. Go buy it. Sell out all the copies of Bayonetta. Good job, people. Good job.
They probably only got one per store or something.
Yeah, could be that. Let's be optimistic about it, though. They're selling millions.
Don't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sold more than Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Damn right they did.
Easy done.
Yeah, goddamn right they did.
All right, guys, we've come to an hour and a quarter, so I think I'll end the show there. Thank you very much for coming on, guys.
Thanks a lot for having us.
No problem.
Yeah,
it was great.
Give us all your plugs. We'll start with Dylan.
You can check out all my stuff at the Explosion Network. That's explosionnetwork.com. We have the PlayStation podcast that we already mentioned, Platinum Explosion, and then there's a couple other podcasts. And if you're listening to this in time, Saturday, come watch our stream. We'll be announcing more shows at twitch.tv/Explosion Network. You can follow my personal Twitter, Vivaladil, Vivaladil on Twitter. You can follow Explosion Pod, that's on Twitter. Did I do good? Good job?
You did good. You had that down.
Thank you.
You, Paul?
So you can find me at Player 2. The website is player2.net.au. The YouTube channel, youtube.com/player2netau. And me, Paul James P2 on Twitter. I post links to basically everything I do, be it written or in video form. So please go and check those out.
Yeah. Go and check them out. They're great Australian content for your eardrums and your eyeballs. And you can find our Twitter, Discord, and everything our guests have just said down in the show notes below. And we're going to finish today, like we finish every episode, with Nintendo Jukebox. This week is A for Naught's Shine Get, which is a catchy little 8-bit tune Dylan caught just as he come into the chat. All right, guys, catch you later, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.